a nice day today.
Oh, yeah, yes. I can't wait to get off work.
Me too. I hope it won't rain. Hello, how are we today?
Hello.
Hi.
Great. Ready to work.
Great, it's Friday.
Yes, we have a really interesting case today, as we know, right?
Yes, I know, we can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, we are opening the 24th Assembly of Disciplinary Board. Here are the details of our case.
Okay.
Judge Anen is a judge at the criminal department of the higher court who appeared in a primetime TV broadcast where he was asked to comment on the amendments to the criminal code. Have you seen this show?
Oh, yes, I've seen it. I really liked it. I think Judge Annan was great.
Unfortunately, I haven't. I heard it from my colleagues, but I don't know the details.
No, okay, I'll continue with the
Okay.
facts. As you know, under the amendments, life sentence was introduced to replace the prison sentence of between 30 and 40 years for most serious and specifically listed criminal offenses. In addition to this, under the amended criminal code, there is no possibility of parole for some criminal offenses if a person is sentenced to life. On this TV broadcast, Judge Anen introduced himself as a judge and said that he believed that the amendments were unconstitutional and unharmonized with the ratified international treaties, primarily Article 3 of the Convention on Human Rights. And as we all know, the Article 3 prohibits torture and inhumane treatment.
I think he made a good point when he said that life sentence without the possibility of parole was inhumane because it does not give an individual the opportunity to change and re-socialize. I also agree with him that the constitutionality of a law is a matter of public interest that needs to be reviewed in a democratic society.
Anyway, as a result of his public appearance in media and the fact that Judge Anen handles trials in those and similar cases, the issue of his impartiality has been raised. So obviously here we have a conflict between judge's freedom of expression and protection of judicial impartiality. So what is your opinion on this matter?
Well, after hearing this case, I think that our judge shouldn't have spoken in this manner. As a member of the judiciary, he has a special role in the society and therefore greater responsibility in this respect. I think that this is what the burden of the office of a judge is, and as a judge, he should have known better.
No, I disagree with you. I think he talked very professionally and he was right about everything he said. Why do you think that?
You must have in mind that judges must apply such standards of behavior outside the courtroom that will preserve and improve the confidence of the public in the impartiality of judges and judiciary. And also, these standards minimize the number of cases in which judges would have to be recused.
I agree with you. Acting in this manner, Judge
Exactly.
Anen jeopardized these standards and principles that he was bound to promote. The opinion Judge Anen presented on TV may be attributed to the institution he represents, because the official speech reflects the official position of a state authority.
Wait, I'm a little confused now. Why are you referring to the case of Baka versus Hungary and the difference between official and private speech of public officials?
Yes, I want to say that judge's official speech is not a matter of individual freedom. It is very restricted and committed to promotion of specific public interests.
No, I disagree with you. Freedom of expression is one of the fundamental human rights and freedoms. We must not forget that judges, like all other citizens, have the right to freedom of expression. It is guaranteed by the Article 10 of the Convention.
Yes, it is guaranteed, but it's also a subject to restrictions prescribed by law if those restrictions are necessary in democratic society, like in our case.
Yes, but I think that in our case, these restrictions cannot be applied because his private speech actually protected the interests of the public, and I just can't see how he undermined his impartiality.
But I'm sorry, what difference does it make if judge speaks on matters of public interest?
Well, there are numerous judgments and decisions concerning freedom of expression in the European case law, and I highlighted the ones where the applicant was speaking on matters of public interest. So, the main standard in those decisions is that a political speech or a debate on matters of public interest constitutes a higher level of protection under Article 10. This means that state has little scope for restrictions. Do you really believe that a judge should be prevented from speaking on matters of public interest?
Look, I don't think that a judge should be prevented from speaking on this matter. But I strongly believe that public criticism is an appropriate mechanism for reviewing the constitutionality of a law. And I think that there are other mechanisms in national legislation which would not bring the judges' impartiality into question.
That's right. That is one of the reasons why in every European country exists an autonomous institution that reviews whether laws are harmonized with the state's highest acts.
Yes, I am aware that these courts exist in every European country, but I think that is irrelevant here. I think we should focus on the Bangalore principles of judicial conduct. Here, they state that a judge may write, lecture, teach, and participate in activities concerning the law and the legal system. So, if a judge can do all that, why can't he verbally express his opinion on an issue that concerns the legal system from a professional point of view? Who else would have been more suited to comment on this matter?
But listen, you must keep in mind that not everybody has the same impact, and that the words of Judge NN, who has a lot of experience in criminal matters, will not have the same impact on public like the words of another judge who does not try in those cases, right?
Exactly. His daily task is to apply such a law and possibly impose such a sanction. So when a law is publicly criticized by a judge who applies it on a daily basis, his impartiality can always be brought into question. If we take a look at the case of Buscemi versus Italy, we can see that judicial authorities are required to exercise maximum discretion with regard to the cases with which they deal in order to preserve their image as impartial judges.
That's right, I agree, and this recommendation can be interpreted even more widely. This restraint should not refer only to ongoing cases, but to others as well.
Right.
Look, imagine a situation in which a judge might publicly present his unfavorable opinion about a particular issue, and then he might later need to apply this issue in practice in case.
No, wait. What you're talking about now is a possible violation of the Article 6 of the Convention, which I think is completely relevant here. This is a matter of freedom of expression, and we need to analyze the speaker's motive. The European Court had an interesting decision on this matter. Here it is. An act motivated by a personal grievance or personal antagonism or the expectation of personal advantage would not justify a particularly strong level of protection. In our case, we have to take into consideration that Judge NN had nothing to gain personally, so it is entirely possible to view his statements as a professional criticism of a bad system, which is obviously a matter of public interest. This is why I think he was well within his rights to make those comments.
I think we have strayed from our main subject, and we should focus our attention on two key questions. First, did the judge violate the provisions on impartiality? And second, if he did, which sanction would be appropriate for this violation?
That's right, that's our job,
Okay.
right? In my opinion, whenever judge's impartiality is likely to be brought into question as a result of his public appearance, he should refrain from using his right to freedom of expression.
Okay, but I think it is also important to see which values he wants to protect through his appearance and whether protecting those values is more important than the preservation of judicial impartiality.
Of course, the key is in striking the right balance between judges' right to freedom of expression and national authorities' legitimate interest in restricting this freedom whenever necessary in order to protect the independence and the impartiality of their institutions.
Okay, yes. I think we do need to find the right balance,
I agree.
but we must not forget about the importance of the freedom of expression.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You think that by publicly voicing his criticism and saying that the new sanction was inhumane, he actually publicly prejudiced all his future decisions on criminal sanctions.
Yes, and as a result, he undermined public confidence in the impartiality of the judiciary.
I see. Well, it is almost certain that Judge NN will have the opportunity to apply the very amendments to the law he described as unconstitutional because the imposition of life sentence is in his competence.
Yes, look, I think that maybe you should view this through the eyes of an average citizen appearing as a victim of one of those criminal offenses. You know, Judge's comments that the newly imposed sanction is inhumane could make every average citizen doubt that he would later impose that sanction in all the cases in which the necessary conditions were met?
Well, when you put it that way, I guess you might be right.
Okay, let's put this to a vote. Who thinks that there has been a violation? Okay, what about the sanction? I think it's appropriate to publicly reprimand him because the sanction needs to be proportionate to the violation. I'm afraid if we impose a strict sanction, we would create the chilling effect.
True, that could indeed discourage all other members of the judiciary from making any critical remarks about public institutions and policies.
Yes.
I think that the public reprimand is more than enough.
That's right. I agree with the sanction you suggested. Well, this wasn't an easy case.
I agree.
Yes.
So I'm really happy to say that this assembly is adjourned.
Freedom of expression is one of the essential foundations of a democratic society, one of the basic conditions for its development and for the development of every man.
We all enjoy the right to freedom of expression. However, we must keep in mind that our words, when spoken, have weight. The greater the role in the society, the bigger the impact. My message to future judges is to choose their words carefully in order to preserve their impartiality.
Plato said that moral values make the soul beautiful, which is why it is necessary to develop virtues. If you decide to become a judge, your core virtues must be dignity, impartiality, professionalism, courage, and empathy. If you choose justice, live it every day and in every occasion.